right, ladies, how are we doing today?
Fantastic.
All right, my name is Tim Hyder. I'm the principal here at Chapel Hill Middle School. All right, just want to formally introduce myself and welcome you to our campus. Today we're going to be talking about response to intervention. Specifically, we're going to be talking about behavior. Right? What are some techniques and some strategies we can use to better assist us with handling behavior on this campus? So this is going to be very important for you as new teachers coming in, so that way we can all be on the same page as far as the way we handle behavior on our campus. Okay. Starting off, we're going to start off with an icebreaker. So something I kind of like to do just to get us going to start it off. All right, this is something I've done before, and I kind of find it pretty interesting. It says, I want you to pretend that you're on a ship at sea, and this ship is sinking fast, okay? It says, as the ship is sinking, you see a small lifeboat and a deserted island in the distance. As you prepare to depart for this island, you realize that you only have time to grab one item, okay, before the ship sinks, I should say. Your instructions are as follows, okay? Here in a little bit, I'm fixing to give you an index card and something to write with. What I want you to do is, on the index card, write down what one item you will take, okay? And then also, somewhere underneath that, I want you to explain why you chose that item, okay? But before you do all of that, when I call you, I want you to state who you are, all that, what you're going to be doing on campus, and then go into your questions, okay? So I'm going to give us a couple of minutes to work on that, just kind of get us going. So remember, just one thing, get one item. Now, this item can be anything you want, okay? Anything you want, but it can only be one item. So what is that one item? And two, what do you? Why would you bring that item? Okay? Why did you choose that item specifically? No rush. We got plenty of time. And when we start off, I'm gonna start it off, just kind of give you an example, and then I'm gonna let you introduce yourselves. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're about done.
Yes. Yep.
All right, well, I'm going to start off with myself to kind of let you know how it goes. Once again, my name is Mr. Hyder. I'm the principal here at Chapel Hill Middle School. The one item I chose, okay, don't laugh at me. The one item I chose is the Bible. Okay, I would like to choose a book. So, book specifically, I want to choose the Bible. The reason I chose the Bible is because, for me, I feel that I would lose my sanity before I lose anything else. I always refer to the movie, was it Castaway? I always refer to that movie where, I think that I can make a fire. Okay, I think that I'm able to find something to eat. Okay, I think that I'll be able to do those things as a natural instinct, but I think that I would lose this before I lose those things. So my thing is, I would rather have a book or something there to keep my mind going. Okay, so that's what I would bring. So let's start off with you. I want you to stand up, introduce yourself, tell us what you chose, and explain why you chose that item.
Okay, my name is Sage McDonald, and I'm going to be working in life skills.
Okay.
And I chose to take a knife because I can make weapons with it. I can build shelter, and I can use it, the weapons for protection or vegan to cut fruit off a tree.
Cut fruit off from way up there and get it down?
Yeah.
That's a good one, okay?
Very good.
All right.
My name is Courtney Childers, and I work in ELAR, and
Okay.
I chose to bring my dog because I need a companion, and he can help me hunt and fish, and then I'll just have company with me the whole time. So,
That's awesome.
and I can't leave him behind on the boat. So,
Okay, that is true. That would be very, very like horrible if you was a person.
Maybe.
But like we were kind of thinking on the same lines as
Yeah.
far as a companion. All right, it's human instinct to want to gravitate towards something. So knowing that, the first thing that's going to go is your mindset. I think that a knife is good. I'm wrong. A knife is good until you get to the point where you go crazy and you want to stab yourself. Then all of a sudden we got a problem. You know, so I know that, you know, I'm going to lose this up here, so I need to have that constantly stimulating. Everything else, I think I'll be all right. So it's just kind of an icebreaker I like to do to kind of get us involved and kind of get you thinking a little bit about if that was to happen to you. All right, Castaway is one of my favorite movies, so it kind of goes with it.
Love that movie.
Now let's get into exactly why we're here today. Okay, so first and foremost, it says, what exactly is RTI? All right, it says, RTI is response to intervention. It's a multi-tier approach to the early identification and support of students with learning and behavioral needs. Okay, it says a response to intervention approach is based on the three main concepts. The first one is continual application of a structured problem-solving process. All right, so continually addressing an issue. All right, it should be something that's continuing on. All right, not something that you wait until it happens. All right, you got to have something in place before things begin. Step two is reliance on an integrated data system that is used to inform problem solving. Okay, use to inform problem solving. So basically, you want to make sure that you're using data, all right, in those things to understand why things are happening or how many times things are occurring. The last one is utilization. It says utilization of a multi-tiered model of support delivery that enables the efficient use of school resources. All right, so basically what that's saying is being able to utilize the resources that we have here on campus to effectively determine the problem, address the problem, and see what we can do to keep it from happening in the future. At the bottom, like I said, we're going to be focusing on response through intervention as it relates to behavior. Okay, as it relates to behavior. It says, how has RTI behavior been for you? Okay, so another thing that relates to this was going to be related to what we're doing. It says on an index card, please do the following. So we're going to get a new index card. This was going to be related to our actual assignment for the day. First bullet says, think about your educational career. So this whole time you've been a teacher, right? Unless it's your first year, okay? In your opinion, what was the best year for you and your school in terms of behavior? So in terms of behavior, what was your last place you've been to where the behavior, y'all didn't have a huge behavior problem on that campus, okay? Or maybe you didn't have a huge behavior problem in your classrooms, all right? So first things first is figure out when that was in your career. And then the next one says, what classroom and school strategies were used to combat unapproved behavior? Wherever this was you were at, all right? Whichever school you was at. Okay, so what did you do at this campus? And did these strategies work? Why or why not? And I would think that they worked if it was your best ones. So the biggest thing is, I want you to write down what year was your best as far as classroom and campus management, as far as behavior. Which year was your best? All right, and then talk about what strategies your school will use in order to make it successful. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about that here in a couple minutes. Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes to write that down, and I'll share mine first, and then we'll go on from there. about 2 more minutes. All right, everybody done? All right, I'll start off with myself. First and foremost, I've been in education for 5 years before I became first year principal, which I'll be this upcoming school year. As far as for me, year 2, I was in Frankston. Specifically, I was in Frankston Middle School. That was my best year in terms of classroom management and school management. The reason for that is there's multiple reasons, but the main reasons were we all were on the same page as far as discipline. You had your own leeway as far as what you can do in your classrooms, but there weren't any warnings that led, 4, 5, 6 warnings until you got in trouble. It was, you can warn them as many times as you want in your classroom. After that, they go to the office and it was handled. Boom, parents are called, things are taken care of in a swift and concise manner. Also, the community was pretty good as far as having our backs as a staff, as a campus. All right, they really, it's not like it is in other schools I've been where you tell parents something and they don't believe you. This campus really did a good job as far as their community is filling in and helping us out as educators. And then what helped me in classroom is I was also the world geography teacher and the PE teacher for all 6th graders. So if somebody got in trouble, I just say, see you in 2nd period PE. All right, it's pretty good. All right, no corporal punishment though. All right, just making sure y'all know that. Disclaimer. So I had all the 6th graders in my class, and I also had all of them in PE, so it kind of made it easy for me. If somebody did mess up, I could just take care of them there, or set them out from a fun activity and all that. These strategies did work, but mainly, like I said, mainly because we were all on the same page as far as the staff. And we were all on the same line. It wasn't like this teacher was super hardcore and this teacher super lenient. We were all level, we were all on the same plane. Okay, so that's kind of where I've been in my career as far as the best experience I have. Okay, Ms. Sage.
So I explained mine a little different because I've only been here 1 year, but I did notice a difference in behavior in my classroom compared to outside my classroom.
Okay.
And so when I was outside my classroom and with general ed, I noticed discipline was a struggle. The behavior was out of hand at times. And in our classroom, it was definitely more structured, and some of the things that we did in our class was we started off with a plan at the beginning of the year. We had a discipline plan. And then we stayed consistent with that. So in our classroom, we have, after lunch, about an hour and a half of free time where the kids can do whatever they want. They can get on the computers, they can play games, they can visit with each other. And our plan of action, if you misbehave, was you would get minutes taken away. I think it started off with like 5 minutes. It was by 5 increments of time where you had to sit out and just sit at your desk and not do anything and not participate in free time. And that seemed to work with our kids mostly on the computers because they all want to be on computers during free time on YouTube. Now. But their time away from that, it worked. And so that's really what we did. We just stayed consistent, and communication among the teachers in my classroom was also very helpful. We were all on the same page. If someone was having an off day, we would let them know, let the other teachers know, just to be a little bit more relaxed with them, give them a little more time to adjust. But I think communication was huge.
Communication was huge, and you set that precedent to start the year, like, day one, this is how it's going to be. if you don't follow the rules, these are the consequences and all that.
Right.
So that all helped out as far as proper classroom management. That's great. All right, Ms. Courtney.
So, I have not taught yet, but I have done my student teaching. So
Okay.
my thoughts kind of bounce off both of y'all's.
Okay.
So when you talked about that the teachers and administrators need to be on the same level, that's what I wrote down too. Like
Okay.
from my classes, that's what I've learned, that they need to be on the same level. They need to know what the administrators need to be in agreement with the teachers, and the teachers and administrators for discipline.
Yes.
It can't be different.
And I've been there before. I got some
Yeah.
stories.
And then in my student teaching, kind of what you were talking about, I noticed a difference within my classroom with behavior strategies, and then outside of the classroom. So outside of the classroom, it kind of seemed like students got too many chances. They were able to kind of do what they wanted, and they didn't really have consequences to their actions.
Yes.
Whereas in my classroom, it was more structured, and students had to, they had to take responsibility for their behavioral issues.
Okay. So the biggest thing that some key points that I've heard from both of you is structure. That's probably the biggest as far as the way I view behavior, the way I do everything. I'm a very organized person, as you can probably see. I'm a very organized person, right? This is the way it is, this is the way it's gonna be. If you do this wrong, this is the consequence, all that. So structure plays a very important part in behavior. If they don't have that structure and you give them a little bit of free time, that's usually where the issues come about. Now I'm also big on incentives, all right? I try to form a relationship with the students and try to find out what things student likes. So I'll say, hey, this student likes, most of them like to be on computers, that's not a good one, but this student likes to draw, right, in their spare time. This student likes to talk to their friend about, I don't know, dance class, something like that. So usually I try to take my time and get to understand each student and try to find that incentives, right? There's been times where whole class is good. If I say, hey, 5 minutes, last 5 minutes, you can be on the computers, all right? Now, not anything on the computers, but they have restrictions, but they're allowed to be on the computers. So incentives is important, structure is important, communication is important, and just being on the same page, right? Nothing bothered me more as a teacher when something happened in my classroom, especially if it's disrespectful, because I don't send anybody out or anything like that unless it's just over the top. All right, and you send them off, and they go to the office or do whatever, and they come back like nothing's happened. I mean, nothing, makes you feel about your job and security and all that more than that happens. So I've been there before, in that scenario, and you don't want that to happen. Big thing with me is I'm gonna have my teachers back. Now I'm gonna always make sure I get both sides of the story. I'm gonna talk to the student, talk to the teacher about what's going on, but I also try to make sure I take care of my staff. Okay, so that's a very important part of what we do as a staff, is make sure we're all on the same page and we're all together. Okay, going to the next thing. This is what we're going to be doing at the campus starting this next school year. It says, what should a structured problem-solving process look like? So this is RTI, behavior problem-solving process. There's 4 steps to this, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Step 1 is problem identification. So basically, we've got to figure out what's the problem. All right, what exactly is the problem? Okay. Step 2 is problem analysis. All right, why exactly is this occurring? All right, what is this person doing? They're sleeping in class. Are they talking to this specific person a lot, or they're not doing their homework? All right, why exactly is that occurring? Okay. Step 3 is intervention design. All right, what are we going to do about it? So once we find out what the problem is and gets a little information on why it's occurring, now we need to start figuring out some plans on what we can do to reverse those behaviors. And then step 4 is response to intervention. Now, whatever plans we design and implement, are they actually working? Right? They're working, and we can continue using it. Maybe we can expand to other students. If they're not working, we need to go back to the drawing board and go back around and see what's going on, see what we can do to better help the student. Okay, so those are our 4 steps. We're going to dive a little more deeper into every one coming up here soon. So step 1 says problem identification. What's the problem? First, problem behaviors of all students, groups of students, or individual students must be identified. In order to do this, we as a staff must work under the foundation that a problem can be, 1, anything that keeps the individual from maximizing his or her academic success. So anything that keeps them from reaching their potential academically, their potential, to me is a problem, because I want every student to be able to maximize what they can learn here on this campus. Okay. Bullet 2 says anything that keeps others from maximizing their academic success. This one bothers me more than anything. Is the second one. You know, I'm real big on if you don't want to learn, that's you, but you're not gonna keep somebody else from learning. Okay, so that's a big one. They're distracting others from maximizing their academic success, and that's a huge problem with me. Then the last one says anything that threatens the safety of the offender, other students, teacher, and the campus as a whole. So safety is also an important part in everything we do. That's one of my biggest roles, to make sure everybody's safe. Right? If I'm not as safe as a teacher, it's going to affect my instruction, right? Because I don't feel safe. Okay. Same way with the students. If they're not feeling safe here on campus, it's going to affect their learning ability. All right. So that's also a huge one. Make sure everybody is safe on campus, safer in their classrooms, and that's also going to help them in terms of their learning. Okay. Step 2. And if you have any questions on any of these, by the way, just feel free to ask. Step 2 says next is it is critical to understand why those behavior problems are occurring. This step is the problem analysis. This step is critical, but it's often undervalued when it comes to changing behavior. For some reason, all right, we're all too fast to, and myself included, we're all real fast to identify a problem, but we don't necessarily get to the bottom of why that problem occurred. You know, there's some things that, not saying that person should get a pass because, you know, their parents got divorced or maybe there was a death in a family or anything. I'm not saying that they should get a pass for the wrong behavior, but I'm just saying that it's important to understand why something happened, right? If that kid had an outburst one time, this shouldn't treat it the same as somebody's been doing something for 2 or 3 weeks, right, in a row, okay? It says we as educators will be a lot more effective in getting the desired behavior if we get to the bottom of why that issue happened to begin with. A kid that had only one outburst because their loved one recently passed away is not in the same category as a student who continuously chooses to be disrespectful to his or her peers. Okay, now both of them, I just want to let you know, both of them will be getting in trouble. Both of them will be receiving consequences. But the way I see it, my viewpoint is going to be different on those scenarios. One big thing with me is I'm all about teaching life experiences. All right, if I get pulled over by the police, I can sit here and say that, hey, I'm late to work. All right, I'm on my way to a funeral. All right, whatever it is. I mean, I'm sure sometimes we actually do have legitimate excuses. Okay. Biggest thing is, regardless, most cases, you're going to get a ticket. All right, I did something wrong. I'm going to get a ticket for it. Okay, so same scenario with this. All right, although that person might have a death in the family or something like that, they will get in trouble for doing something wrong. Okay, but we need to understand why it happened, because maybe we can keep that from happening again. Okay, instead of just ruling this person as an unruly kid, and now they're put in a different category when they probably shouldn't be in that category. That's what we don't want to do. We don't want to put kids in the wrong category just because of one instance or 2 instances. All right. We also have to understand that they have lives as well. They have issues that go on in their lives, a lot of which they can't control. Okay. So if we understand that better, that'll help a lot of people, a lot of students stay out of our discipline things that we have to do. Okay. Step 3. Says based on an understanding of why the behavior is occurring, school personnel and teams can develop effective and efficient interventions to address the problem behavior. Once we identify an issue and analyze the possible reasons for its occurrence, the next step would be to implement a plan that will change this behavior. So with this, biggest thing is, with step 3 is, now that we know what's going on, and we know the problem, and we know what's the reason for it, now we need to come up with a plan on how we're going to tackle this issue. All right, so this is also an important one because if you tackle it incorrectly, or at least I think if you tackle it incorrectly, you could keep that behavior continuing, especially like I just said, if it's somebody that probably shouldn't be characterized in a certain behavioral group. Okay, so this is a very important step, making sure we correctly identify and handle things carefully, so that way we can move people out of specific tiers. And we'll talk about the tier levels in a little bit.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, say we have a plan set up for the school for discipline, and in a couple months into the school year, we see that plan is just not working. What would you
Okay.
do?
So let's say we have a plan for, we have a unified school plan for, this is the way it goes. Let's say, for example, you get, I don't know, you get 5 warnings before you get a referral. Okay, I think that's fair enough, right? You get 5 warnings, like official warnings. That's not even including you like saying, "Hey, Johnny, stop it." Okay, that's a warning too. It's just not documented. You get 5 official warnings before you get to your first write-up and all that. Usually, if it's a hard set issue like that, we can't change it fundamentally until the next year, because those things have to be adopted by site-based committees as far as how those things are going to be handled. So say if we start off this year saying, hey, 5 warnings until the first write-up, that official rule can't change until the next school year. Mainly because if you change that rule midway, and then you say, hey, now we're going to make it, I don't know, 2 warnings, and then you get your referral. All right, now you're going to have parents upset that, hey, mine only got 2, and then now they're already written up, and this one got 18 write-ups, and it's just it won't be right. It won't be fair for the ones that began it and the ones that's on the other end. So stuff like that, you really can't change it, and like you got to do that in the summer, which is usually what we do. We tackle RTI behavior and all those things in the summer and come up with a plan for how we're going to use it in the fall and the spring.
Gotcha.
And then, through that year, we continue to analyze it and see, hey, is this working? Then let's continue it on. Maybe we can add some stuff to it, or we say, hey, this isn't working at all. We need to scratch it, go back to the board and figure out something for the next year. So if it's not working, then we move it to another thing for the next year. Okay. But smaller stuff like your own classroom management in class, you can change that up how you want. I give teachers the freedom to handle behavior in their classroom as they please. Right now, there's obviously some rules to it. You can't slapping kids, anything like that. What I am saying is you have some freedom as far as how you handle behavior in your classroom. So for instance, in my classroom, I might give you 2 warnings. Well, hey, stop doing it. All right, hey, stop doing it. 3rd time, all right, you got sentences. Okay. 2nd time, double the sentences. Okay. Time after that, nobody's got a huge problem. Now you're on my bad side. Okay, now just sit in the corner. Okay, that's kind of it. So you have that freedom in the classroom, but your bigger things, it's going to have to be handled during the summer and then analyzed throughout the year to determine its effectiveness. Okay,
Gotcha.
so as far as with the 5 classroom warnings, that's actually what we did at this campus last year. But coming in this year as a new principal, I am for sure changing that. Okay, we're not going to have 18 warnings before you get your first referral. Okay, me coming up, there wasn't even warnings. Like you had your own warnings undocumented, and it was right up. All right, so it was, I am going to be changing that. I'm going to do 1 classroom warning, 1 documented classroom warning, and then it's a referral, like automatic, like boom, it's automatic. So you got to have those systems in place in order to make sure everybody understands the rule and make sure it follows. Because if they're not feeling that that they're not getting punished for anything, then it's just going to continue on, and you won't be able to nip it in the bud. It's going to be like it's like a tire rolling down a hill on fire. There won't be much you can do about it. So that was actually a really good question. Okay. Step 4. Step 4 says progress monitor whether students are responding to their interventions In order to see if a strategy was effective, we as a staff must analyze in real time if the technique or strategy has worked. So, like I said, during that, if I was to try to change that, you would have to analyze it throughout the school year and determine, hey, did this work? Did it not work? And in the summer, come up with a new technique and strategy to implement for the following school year. So this is also a very important part, is to see whether it's working. Because if it's working, we want to continue doing it. And if it's not, we want to figure out why and change it immediately. We don't want to keep repeating bad habits, okay? Now this one says, what could you do differently? All right, so this is just a discussion. This one don't really require any writing, sort of say, but the discussion, this is what it says. I want you to think about the worst student you had in your educational career. And don't lie, we all had that one where you wanted to drop kick them, Chuck Norris style, if you had a chance, okay? So we all had that one student in our educational career where we just, like, man, I hope Johnny ain't in school today. Like, please don't be at school today, okay? Now imagine that this individual was a victim of severe bullying at an early age. Does this change your viewpoint of this individual? Now take a look, there's no right or wrong answer. I just want to hear what you think about it. We're just going to have an open discussion about this topic. So think of the baddest of the bad you've ever seen on whatever campus you've been on. All right, or even if it's not on campus, just think about, it can be in your school career when you were a student. Okay, think about the baddest of the bad. All right, let's say this person, he or she suffered from extreme bullying at an early age. Okay, does this change your viewpoint of this individual? Okay, I'm gonna let Sage, I'm gonna let you go first. Just tell me how you feel. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. Just let me know what you think.
I think it definitely changes how lenient I would be on them. I would be more lenient on them as far as discipline.
Okay.
Like I'd give them, thinking about it, I felt kind of bad. Like, I would want to give them more
Tough
chances.
Tough one, right?
Yeah, because you understand where they're coming from, and I don't know. My problem is like, what if, because the step 2 was finding out what the problem is, but what if they shut down? Because a lot of our kids do. Whenever you ask them what's going on, they just completely shut down.
Okay.
So how do you find out?
So if they keep shutting down, for one, never give up. Biggest thing, try to use as many resources as you can. So if they got an aunt or live with grandma or somebody you can possibly talk to get some information about them. All right, find some things about them that they like and enjoy. Like, hey, I heard you like to draw, or something like that, to try to build that rapport between you two, and maybe that person can open up a little more. Then do that. All right. So biggest thing is don't give up. Just keep trying to get in there. Don't force. Don't punch your way in there. But don't give up, and try to use as many resources as you can as far as trying to get that person to open up and show them that you're doing this because, one, you care about them. Right, and 2, you genuinely want to help. Okay, so that's the biggest thing with me.
I don't think it changes necessarily my viewpoint of them, but it would definitely make me want to give them more chances.
Okay, so you said it doesn't change your viewpoint of them, but it would probably make you want to give them more chances.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a tough one. I'm trying to get you to think a little bit. All right, Courtney, what do you think?
So I think it would change my viewpoint of them. I think it would give me a lot more answers as to why they're doing what they're doing.
Okay.
So I'm not just looking at them like a student that is really frustrating me. They are really frustrating me, but there's a background behind it. There's a reason why.
Yeah.
So that would definitely change my viewpoint.
I guess you're probably not thinking that, hey, this person's not doing this just because they hate me, which I mean it might be, but that's probably not the reason. At first, you're probably like, all right, this kid's hating me, or this kid's doing this just because they weren't raised right, or whatever the thing is. Finding that information out, it kind of makes you tone back a little bit. I mean, there's been times in my career, mainly on the coaching side, where I'm just like ripping people. Like I'm probably hated out there by like 75% of them. Okay, but and then you find out something about a kid that's like real home, like something in their home, like hey, so and so, give you an example. So and so got into a fight with his mom last night, 2 nights ago, and he's been sleeping in the car for the past 2 nights. And you kind of like, then you see him the next day, and you're like, I feel a little bad. I was ripping him for stuff like, stuff like you didn't get all the way to the line.
Right.
And all that, like you didn't touch the line, and I'm ripping you up for that, So it kind of it does, if you have a heart or soul, I should say, it does it should bother you a little bit. It should make you want to help them, all right? Genuinely make you want to help them, and that's the type of people I want to have on my campus. Is people who want to get to the bottom of it, want to know more about what's going on, and genuinely want to change that, do what they can in their power to change that. Okay. What if I told you that your perspective might change, but the outcome shouldn't? So basically, we live in a real world. I am a real world application type of person. All right. So the way it is, hey, I understand. I've been through some crazy stuff in my lifetime before, and I may have blurted out. Maybe rarely in my educational career done some things I shouldn't have done. All right, but at the end of the day, I understand I shouldn't have been doing it. Okay, now not every kid's gonna get it that easy. They're not gonna understand it. What they do need to understand is that, hey, if you do these things in real life, it won't just be a slap on the wrist. It won't just be, hey, John, let's sit down and talk about it. All right, which we will talk about it, but they need to understand the real world applications behind it. We're gonna always be teaching real world applications on this campus. So understand that you do want it to change your perspective. You should be able to see it from a different perspective now. But at the same time, if this person was severely bullied as a kid and he punched the teacher, you're still going to DAP. I'm sorry, you got to go DAP. Okay, so change your perspective, but it's not going to change the outcome. All right, because that just wouldn't be fair. This person did something wrong, and this person did the same thing wrong. This person did it just because they're just bad. Right? This person did it just because, right, they've been subject to those behaviors from other people to them as a kid. It's going to change your perspective about that person specifically, but they both did the crime. Right? If I say, hey, you go DAP for 10 days and you go for 1 day, and you both did the exact same thing, now you're going to have a whole different barrage of issues. All right? That parent's going to be upset, especially when she finds out that person only went for is this. You run into a whole bunch of different issues. All right, so biggest thing with me is consistency. Like I am right here all day. Wake up the same way every day. I am high energy all day. Like no matter how tired I am, no matter how much sleep I got, no matter how much food I didn't get, I am up here all day. All right, to around like 7:30 p.m. after practice, and I'm like, all right, I'm tired. Okay, but biggest thing is making sure you stay consistent. Show them that you love them. Show them you care about them, but also make sure they understand, hey, this is the way it's going to be in the real world. You can't be doing it because they won't be lenient on you. Okay, they gotta understand that. Where do they stand? So let's talk about this is a behavioral pyramid. We're gonna talk about it a little bit as far as where do all students stand. Now, as you can see here in the middle, it has what we're doing. Define the problem, analyze what's occurring, what are we going to do about it, and then is it working? All right. And as you can see, it says from here to here, it's like a darker shade green, and then from here to here it goes to a lighter shade, and then it gets to like a really dark red at the top. So what it's going to show is, right, this is basically all students. This is going to be some of your students, and then you're going to have some really bad ones up here. Okay, it's not going to be every single student in the campus, which it might feel like that some days, is up here in the red. It's not going to be like that all the time. Okay, so actuality is going to look something like that. Now let's break it down as far as numbers. Show you about how this should look as far as numbers. Okay, 80% of students. Okay, 80% of students on the campus is going to be in this range, right? We're fixing to talk about tiers in a little bit. This is basically your tier 1, right? Basically, with these 80% of students, you can give them warnings in the classroom, say, hey, Johnny, stop. Or, just give them some redirection, and 9 times out of 10, this 80% is they're gonna fall back in line and do what they're supposed to do. So that's gonna be most of your students on campus, okay? And then you're gonna get to a smaller percentage, 15%, where you're gonna have to take higher steps. all right? Redirecting them once or maybe twice isn't really working with this group, all right? So maybe this group, they get sentences, all right? Maybe they get double the sentences, all right? Maybe they get 1 day ISS, okay? All right, then you have a very small percent, all right? You see 5% up in red. These are gonna be your serious behavior issue kids, like habitual, consistent, like seem like they're in ISS all year kids, okay? When you look at the numbers and you break it down, those kids that are misbehaving typically are the smaller of the entire student body, okay? Most of your kids is gonna be good as far as redirecting, all right? At least it should. If it's not looking like this, if this is like 50, then we got a huge problem. Okay, if it's like 50, 35, or we got a problem. A huge problem on that campus. Okay, because most campuses is going to be something like this. Most of your kids is going to be in here. You're going to have some you're going to do a little bit more with, and then you're going to have your ones that just ain't following directions regardless. So, but that's a small percentage compared to populations. Okay, it says primary prevention. School classroom-wide systems for all students, staff, and settings. So this is just make sure everything's on the same level, all right? Staying consistent in the classroom, in the school, and keeping that structure is gonna help with this. Then it says secondary prevention, specialized group systems for students with at-risk behavior, all right? So this now as far as once you get to that area, you gotta start specializing things a little bit more, okay? And then the red is your territory prevention, just specialized, individualized systems for students with high risk behavior. Okay, so that's kind of a breakdown of those. Now let's talk about tiers. The 80% is going to be your tier 1. That's where majority of your students is going to be. So what is tier 1 response to intervention for behavior? The goal of RTI behavior at the tier 1 level is the prevention of problems behavior and promotion of positive behavior by establishing processes that should facilitate successes for 80% or around 80% of the student body. An effective tier 1 system should reduce the number of students who need more expensive and time-consuming resources as tier 2s and tier 3s. So if more than 80% of students respond to tier 1 support, the school has maximized their resources and is able to meet the needs of more students more effectively. So if you're around the 75% and more, as far as the majority of your students is in that tier 1 where they can respond to redirection, be redirected quickly, your school is top notch as far as behavior, right? Because let's face it, you're gonna have some unruly behavior anywhere you go. It's just depending on how much unwanted behavior. Okay, so if you can keep your school within that 75 plus range, they're doing pretty good as far as behavior. Okay. What are tier 2 supplemental supports? Okay, it says tier 2. All right, so tier 2 is like your 15%. Now we got to start upping the ante a little bit more. It says tier 2 supplemental supports are designed to provide additional or targeted interventions to support students who have access to tier 1 universal supports and are not responding positively to them. So now those redirections and all those things aren't really working with these kids. So now we got to go just a little bit further with these kids. Okay. Supplemental supports are more intensive since a smaller number of students within middle part of the triangle are at risk for engaging in more serious problem behavior and need more support. Common supplemental support practices involve small groups of students or simple individualized intervention strategies. Supplemental support is designed for use in schools where there are more students needing behavior support. They can be supported via intensive and individual tier 3 support. And for the students who are at risk of chronic problem behavior, but for whom high intensity interventions are not essential. So these kids don't need high intensity interventions, at least not yet. Okay, so biggest thing is we want to keep these kids from getting to that level. All right, how can we get these kids that are in tier 2, how can we knock them down to tier 1? Okay, you want as many of your students in tier 1 as you can. You want to keep that tier 2 and that tier 3 very small as far as the percentage on campus. And then tier 3. Tier 3 is intensive individual supports. All right, were originally designed to focus on the needs of individuals who exhibited patterns of severe or extreme problem behavior. So these are going to be your continuous issue students. Tier 3 extensive individual supports involve a process of functional behavior assessment, FBA, that investigates why behavior is occurring in more detail, and development of a behavior implementation plan, so a BIP, which you've probably seen a couple of them in our career, okay? That includes more intensive research-based interventions, closer and more detailed progress monitoring, and more staff time and resources dedicated to problem solving for individual students. So the biggest things as far as our discussion today is making sure we know those tiers, all right? We want to make sure we keep everybody in a lower tier level, all right? So 75% and more is our goal as far as tier 1. We got 30% in tier 2 and 25% in tier 3. It is really, really bad. Although sometimes it probably seems like it, you know, in school that everybody's in tier 3. It's not exactly like that. If you look at the breakdown that we send to the state, it's usually the same kids. All right, as far as tier 3, it's usually those same ones. Tier 2 kind of switches up a little bit, but you're going to see some consistency there as well. And then everybody else is going to be mainly your tier 1 students. Okay. That's pretty much it. Or are there any questions related to what we learned today?
I did have a question about the BIP. Is that something that a parent can request, or is that something that the teacher?
A parent can request it and a teacher can request it.
Okay.
Now, they can't actually implement it unless there's a meeting, an ORT meeting for that. So neither one of them can just specifically make one. All right, they can request, hey, I want a BIP for my son or daughter, and then we have a meeting, and then we can sign that off and make it official. But both parties can recommend that. Okay. Closing thoughts. This is going to be a discussion. All right. To close, on all our stuff we've discussed, how do you think, as you know, being teachers for this upcoming school year, how do you think this information helps you view behavior as far as going into next year, and what do you think are some things you can do as far as behavior strategies for next year? It's just a discussion, so it's not, you don't have to write anything down. What do you think? How do you think this information can help you as far as going into the next school year? Basically, what I want you to think about. Give you a little time to just think about it real quick, and then about a minute we'll discuss what you think and how we're going to tie this together. All right.
You want to go first?
Yeah, you go.
Okay.
Courtney, all right, what we got?
So whenever you were talking to us, one thing that really caught my attention was how you like to teach life experiences.
Uh-huh.
And I think, I really agree with that, because I think sometimes that kind of hits home more with students than just like a slap on the wrist and telling them, okay, you did this wrong, now this is your consequence.
Yes.
If you're kind of like teaching them life skills and life experiences, I think they can relate more to that.
They can really, yes, ma'am. I don't want to, I don't want to send students into the world unequipped. I think it's probably, I'm trying to think of a better way, it's probably the best way to say it. I don't want to send students into the world unequipped. I don't want to feel as though I didn't do enough to help students as far as whenever they were in an educational setting, and then they got out there in the real world, and now they're struggling. And we're going to struggle regardless, most of us, but I certainly don't want to make it our fault that those kids get out of high school and all that, and they're struggling because they didn't get that help when they were in school. I don't want to feel like that. I want to feel like whether you hate my guts, I want you to at least understand that we cared about you, we pushed you, and we wanted to help you understand that life is going to be this way. You're going to do these things in order to be successful in life, right? If you're successful in here, you're doing all the right things. That's going to help you in your walk in life. And I just don't want to feel as though I let somebody down. I don't want to live with that on my conscience. My conscience is like super strong. It's like I mean, it's right there. So that's a big part with me, is I'm not gonna let that happen. You know, if anything fails, I'm gonna at least say I did everything in my power. You know, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But I tried as hard as I can.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just the way I am. Okay. Ms. Sage, what do you think?
I like what Courtney said too, kind of going off of that, because keeping that in mind, just the life experience that you're going to teach these kids, because it's so easy to just stay in our emotions, and if you're a big softie like me, and you know stuff that's going on with the kid, it's so easy to just be like, oh, it's okay, like I'll let that slide this time, and just being consistent with discipline, I think it's a really good thing to keep in mind, because you are doing them.
In the long run, I think in the long run you're doing them justice by holding them accountable, regardless of what they've been through. And we do want them to know that, hey, we do feel for you. We do understand you're going through a lot. You know, we're going to do everything in our power to be there for you and help you out with whatever you're going through. But at the same time, we do have to understand we did do something wrong, right? I understand you're sorry. I understand this. But at the end of the day, we did something wrong. There is going to be a punishment in real life if you do something wrong, whether you're sorry or not. Whether I was going 80 and a 55 or not, whether I'm sorry, I'm getting a ticket.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just the way I am. And I want to make sure they understand, hey, the real world is that's the way it's going to be. You're going to have to. There's an action. There's a consequence for your action, right? So just make sure you're making the right decisions out there. If you're not, it's going to be a bad consequence. But they do have to understand that.
I think another thing is keeping in mind the tiers and seeing each kid as an individual and not grouping them together, because we want to put a kid in a tier that they belong in, and not just because we're frustrated with all these other kids, and then at the end of the day, this one kid pops off, and then you're like, you're going straight to ISS. So so you just want to keep that in mind.
That is exactly what I meant earlier about you don't want to put a kid in the wrong tier, you know, especially if you don't know, you know, our step 2 is why exactly is it happening. You shouldn't treat somebody who's, you know, continuously doing something, has been doing something wrong all year, the same as somebody who just had one outburst, right? Like they just had one outburst, right? Maybe their grandma just died, or maybe something happened. We don't know yet. But if you get to the bottom of it, you can understand. They still get in trouble, right? You still need to let them know, like, hey, you get in trouble for it, but you know, you don't want to automatically throw them in tier 2. Now you might continue to get those same behaviors because nobody really got to the bottom of it.
Right.
Instead of getting to the bottom of it, understanding it, all right, now they go back to tier 1. Okay, so we try to keep as many students in tier 1 as we can, and then, you know, if they go to tier 2, get them back out.
Right.
You're going to have some tier 2s. You're going to have some tier 3s. You don't want that many of them.
Right.
Okay, keep that number really, really low. Okay, thank you both for joining me. I hope that this information is going to be helpful for you in your new school year here at Chapel Hill Middle School. This PowerPoint, if you need any more information from me, I can give you my email address, which is hyderT@chapelhillisd.org. I can just send you this PowerPoint. If you have any other questions, just ask me, and we can go from there. Other than that, good luck, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.